One day at school, Oda, Akira, and the second-year students of a Japanese high school witnessed a glowing ruin appear on the classroom floor. They were bewildered as the classroom began to shake, and a brilliant light enveloped them. They all lost consciousness for a moment and woke up in a strange place. Akira was overwhelmed and wondered where they were. He saw a tall man wearing a royal robe and a crown. The man stood up, welcomed all the students, and introduced them to his palace, explaining that they had been summoned to another world. He introduced himself as the king and the girl beside him as the princess, his daughter. The king assured everyone that their presence here was for an important reason. Akira was puzzled by the current situation, while the king continued his speech, revealing that he had brought them to this new world because a hero was needed to defeat the demon king. The other students struggled to believe that they had been summoned and could become heroes. The king explained that the world they were in was called Morrigan, consisting of 4 continents where humans, elves, beastmen, and demons lived. He ruled a nation called Redis, which had the largest human population, but was currently threatened by demons. He announced that the students had been chosen as candidates for the title of hero, in the desperate hope that they could destroy the demon king to bring peace to this land. An old man with a staff stepped out from behind the king and told the students that only one of them could become the chosen hero. However, the others would also receive special powers, and they all had important roles in the fight against the demons. The old man explained that he would show them how to discover their abilities. Some students were surprised and curious about the kind of abilities the old man was talking about. He revealed that to see the details of their abilities, they needed to say the phrase "status open." Akira decided to follow the instructions and immediately said the phrase. A display screen appeared before him, showing information about his skills: health points, magic points, attack power, defense, and more. Akira realized from the screen that he was an assassin with 18 HP and 12 attack power. He wondered how his numbers compared to the others. Akira could only see his own status bar, and a classmate approached, asking if he had checked his status yet. Akira confirmed that he had, but he confessed that he didn't remember the classmate's name or the names of half the class. Akira asked the classmate about his class, and he revealed that he was a wind mage, but not the hero. Then he asked Akira about his classes, and Akira replied that he was an assassin. Hearing this, the classmate got excited and suggested calling Akira a ninja because he often disappeared during class. Akira figured that the status bars in this world were based on their experiences and characteristics from their time in Japan. He realized he had acquired skills like arithmetic and negotiation through haggling for purchases at the local market. The classmate asked Akira who he thought would become the hero, and after a moment of thought, Akira mentioned Sato Tsukasa as a potential candidate. Akira believed Tsukasa had the qualities of a hero because he was good-looking, had excellent grades, was good at sports, and was a leader in the student council. The old man then summoned all the students and presented a crystal orb on a small pillar. The old man asked the students to line up and touch the orb one by one. He explained that the orb was a magical tool capable of scanning their abilities and displaying their status for everyone to see. Akira began to worry that the orb might reveal their abilities, as he didn't yet fully understand the gravity of the situation. The old man randomly chose a girl to start, and she agreed. Akira realized that making his abilities public could be a risk. When the girl touched the orb, a large display screen appeared, showing her stats for everyone to see. Akira was stunned to see that the girl's abilities were much weaker than his. He wondered how this was possible and realized that this situation was not in his favor. Determined to keep his abilities a secret, Akira activated his stealth skill. This was a skill assassins often use to hide their presence from normal eyes. His classmate was about to say something to Akira, but to his surprise, he could no longer see him. Confused, the classmate looked around, wondering where Akira had gone. Akira breathed a sigh of relief that his stealth skill had worked successfully. He took the opportunity to remain vigilant, just in case anything unusual happened. Now, it was Tsukasa's turn, and Akira watched closely to see if Tsukasa's stats were stronger than his, which would allow Akira to confidently reveal his own status. As Tsukasa approached the crystal orb and placed his hand on it, his classmates began to whisper, assuming Tsukasa might be the chosen hero. When Tsukasa's class was revealed to be hero, Akira noticed that Tsukasa's total stats were still significantly lower than his. This confused Akira, who wondered why he possessed power that surpassed even the heroes. The old man joyfully welcomed the hero, expressing his delight at seeing him. He explained that in their current roles, most people had a maximum attack power of 100, with even the most skilled warriors only reaching a maximum of 500. Concluding his speech, the old man assured them that with the hero by their side, they could easily defeat the Demon King without any problems. Akira began to feel uneasy and wondered what had made him so powerful. The old man then asked all the students to follow him, promising to help them prepare and equip them with the necessary items for their upcoming journey. Akira saw a surveillance camera on the ceiling and felt even more anxious, sensing that something was about to happen. Later, he found an empty room where he could rest and reflect on the situation. While thinking about the purpose of the assassin class, Akira realized he was destined to support the hero from the shadows with his negotiation skills. He also felt that the king was hiding something from all the students. Akira decided to remain hidden and stay away from the orb to avoid being discovered. He recalled that ever since the introduction, he had kept his distance from his classmates and waited for an opportunity. He noticed the room he was in hadn't been cleaned since he entered. But luckily, there were no surveillance cameras inside. At night, Akira decided to leave the room to uncover the king's secret. You snuck into the armory to get new clothes and weapons, because wearing a school uniform would make you stand out too easily. After that, Akira quickly found the king, and happened to overhear a conversation between the king and Princess Maria. She said that the summoned students were unaware of the irregularities, and their true purpose was unclear. The king ordered the princess to proceed with the plan and prevent the students from entering the exhibition hall. He also planned to send the knight commander to train the students the next day. After the princess left, the king went into his study to write something. Akira intended to assassinate the king, but at the last minute, he changed his mind. Realizing that he didn't fully understand the king's plan yet, he decided to withdraw, a decision he would later come to regret. Meanwhile, in a forest, a young girl was running for her life, being pursued. Suddenly, an arrow struck her in the leg, causing her to fall. She realized the arrowhead was coated with a sleeping drug. As she tried to pull the arrow out, her attacker, a woman, approached and sarcastically asked why the girl was still alive. The next day, all the students gathered in the dining area for breakfast. Everyone seemed to be enjoying their meal and chatting quietly about various topics. Suddenly, Tsukasa got everyone's attention by slamming his hand on the table and standing up. He asked everyone to listen to him for a moment. Tsukasa admitted that they were all feeling confused and unable to think clearly due to the shocking event they had experienced the day before, being summoned to another world. However, Tsukasa reassured everyone that he intended to use his power to help the people of this new world. He encouraged the students, expressing his belief in their inner strength and calling on them to join him in the mission to defeat the Demon King. Tsukasa's words rallied the students' spirits, and they all cheered for him in unison. However, Tsukasa silently doubted their enthusiasm, realizing they didn't know whether the king and princess were truly trustworthy. He also pondered how everyone would react upon discovering that the story of demons invading human territory might just be a lie. Despite this, the students agreed to follow Tsukasa's lead. Meanwhile, Akira breathed a sigh of relief for having activated his stealth skill beforehand, which kept him from being noticed. After breakfast, Akira briefly considered escaping the castle on his own. At the training grounds, the students were amazed by the enormous size of the place, admitting it was even larger than their school's field. A cheerful man walked up and introduced himself as Saran Misray, the knight commander of the Retise Kingdom and its last line of defense. In a playful tone, he confided in his vice commander, Isekai'd, that introducing himself like that was embarrassing. However, Zeal advised him that showing his true nature might cause the students to underestimate him. Commander Saran announced to the students that in 1 month's time, they would be venturing into an underground dungeon. For this reason, he promised to train them hard every day until that time came. Some students worried whether they could become strong in just 1 month. But Saran reassured them that if they didn't improve after his training, the problem was their own incompetence. This left the students feeling dejected. But Saran acknowledged their potential and believed they could overcome the training with ease. Akira and Saran's eyes met for a brief moment. Akira smiled and acted normal, but he still doubted if their eyes had truly met, since his stealth skill was active. Akira decided to leave, as he had no intention of following the king's orders. Saran delegated the training to Zeal and quickly disappeared before Zeal could object. While Akira was still wandering off, he was startled to hear the commander ask where he was going. Akira stammered, trying to strike up a natural conversation, but Saran saw right through him. Akira asked how the commander could see him, and Saran revealed that he possessed a special skill called Evil Eye. It was a skill that allowed the user to see things invisible to the naked eye. Akira dropped the act and offered to accept his punishment for skipping training. However, Saran wasn't interested in punishing him or making him go back to training. He just wanted to know where Akira was headed. Akira confessed that he was going to the library. Saran reminded him that the king had forbidden access to it. But Akira still wanted to learn more about this world. Saran confirmed that Akira had been using a stealth skill, and Akira admitted it. Saran asked about Akira's skill level, and he revealed that all his skills were at level 1. Saran offered to teach Akira how to level up his skills. But Akira suspected there was a catch. Saran suggests a deal to exchange information about each other's worlds, and Akira agrees. They shake hands to seal the deal. Just then, Zeal appears and calls out to the commander. He finds Saran with Akira and scolds Saran. Because there's still a lot of work to be done, Zeal apologizes to Akira for Saran's behavior. Akira asks Zeal if he can visit the barracks some other time, and Zeal happily agrees. On their way back, Saran and Zeal realize it's been a long time since Saran smiled the way he did while talking to Akira. Saran admits it's true. Zeal asks Saran about their conversation, and Saran replies that it was just a casual chat about sharing information about their worlds. Saran tells Zeal a few things about Akira's world, like moving metal boxes, floating metal chunks, and how news spreads instantly across the globe. Saran also mentions that Akira comes from a place called Japan. Zeal recalls that the first hero also came from Japan, and theorizes that Akira might be even stronger than the first hero. Saran agrees, and mentions that Akira's stealth skill is maxed out. Zeal is surprised by this information, because besides the first hero, no one else has ever maxed out a skill. Saran explains that in their world, the maximum skill level is usually 9, and it's rare for anyone to get past level 7. However, those summoned from other worlds can easily surpass these levels. Saran wonders why the king isn't paying attention to Akira, and suspects that Akira used his stealth skill to avoid the ceremony the day before. He's confident the king has no idea about Akira's abilities. Saran continues to praise Akira's talent until Zeal asks if Saran plans to bring Akira to their camp. Saran replies that if Akira has realized the king's true nature, maybe they should share their thoughts with him. Saran decides to train Akira personally, not just so he can survive in the dungeon, but to help him maximize his skills. While Tsukasa is training in the courtyard, he sees Akira and expresses his dislike for him. Tsukasa reveals that they've known each other since they were kids, but Akira forgot his name when they were in middle school, even though they sat next to each other. Tsukasa mentions his own popularity, good grades, athletic ability, and decent looks. But Akira still didn't remember him, showing that Akira never paid him any mind. Tsukasa has been secretly watching Akira since they arrived in Morrigan and is unhappy with Akira's hesitation to join the group, as well as his growing closeness with Commander Saran. Tsukasa wonders why Akira won't acknowledge his presence. Princess Maria approaches and offers Tsukasa a glass of water, which he accepts with a smile. He reminds himself to stay calm because he is the hero, but resolves to become stronger to prove himself to Saran and Akira. 1 month later, after completing their training, the students march proudly toward the dungeon. The townspeople cheer for them, but Akira, wanting to avoid the attention, uses his stealth skill to go unnoticed. However, he notices a girl watching them with a cold gaze. Akira approaches her and asks why she's glaring at the heroes like that. The girl retorts coldly, asking if Akira understands the sacrifices that were made to summon them to this world. Before leaving, she suggests they'll meet again after Akira finds the answer, as she has a feeling they're destined to cross paths again. Afterward, Commander Saran, Zeal, and Akira gather for a quick briefing. Saran announces that their next destination is the Continental Dungeon. He goes on to explain to Akira that there is one dungeon on each of Morrigan's 4 continents, and each is named after its respective continent. Saran assures Akira that the knights will escort him and the other students to the dungeon, encouraging him to show off the progress he's made after a long month of training. The students bravely engage in battle with monster rats, and they successfully defeat many of them. However, due to the sheer number of rats, a few manage to break through their defensive line. In a dangerous moment, a rat lunges toward a girl, causing her to scream in panic. But Akira quickly eliminates the threat. Akira expresses his surprise to Saran, admitting he had underestimated the students' abilities. Akira recalls that they had initially progressed smoothly through the first 30 floors of the dungeon. Unfortunately, one of the students accidentally triggered a trap, causing a flood of monster rats to pour in. The students continue to fight, but the situation gradually becomes overwhelming. Akira suggests to Saran that they should retreat, and Saran agrees. He praises the students for the progress they've made so far. Saran announces that he will create a path for their escape and encourages the students to take the opportunity quickly. After chanting an incantation and using his heavenly blade skill, Saran creates a clear escape route for the students. Zeal directs the students to run toward the surface, following the path Saran opened. As they are fleeing, the students realize that there are still monsters waiting for them at the entrance to the next floor. Suddenly, Tsukasa remembered the smoke bomb that Princess Maria had given him to use in times of danger. The smoke bomb didn't explode but continuously released smoke, causing the monsters to panic and flee. Realizing he was running out of smoke bombs, Tsukasa ran ahead of the group of students and advised them to stick close and run together. Zeal and another knight combined their skills to push back more monsters. Akira was impressed by their coordination and asked Saran if the knights alone were enough to defeat the Demon King. Saran ignored the question and just instructed them to retreat. While retreating, they heard a loud roar from the floor above and rushed to check it out. They discovered a minotaur, which surprised Zeal, as such monsters usually only appeared on deeper dungeon floors. Akira tried to attack the minotaur, but his dagger shattered the moment it made contact. Revealing the monster's incredible toughness, Akira approached Tsukasa to ask about the situation. And Tsukasa explained that they were just using smoke bombs to drive the monsters away. But the minotaur appeared after they used the last one. The minotaur attacked, and Tsukasa tried to block its blow with a sword, but his arm ended up breaking as a result. Zeal reassured Akira that the knights would handle the minotaur and told him to take Tsukasa to a healer. Akira escorted Tsukasa, praising his courage and resilience while enduring the pain. Tsukasa responded to Akira's words by asking, "If I don't protect our classmates, who will?" Akira immediately shot back, asking, "And who's going to protect you if you're trying to carry the burden of protecting everyone?" Akira emphasized that their goal wasn't just to protect others, but to use their power to defeat the Demon King. He reminded Tsukasa that their classmates had all been trained for this day and were capable of protecting themselves. Akira advised Tsukasa to prioritize taking care of his own health first. Shortly after, Tsukasa's behavior became erratic. He started mumbling and saying incoherent things. Akira quickly realized that something was wrong with Tsukasa. Akira then asked the other students if any of them had healing or exorcism skills. Two girls stepped forward, Hosoyama Shiori, a healer, and Ueno Yuki, an exorcist. Yuki wondered what being an exorcist could do to help Tsukasa, and Akira replied that he would explain later. Akira asked Shiori to heal Tsukasa's arm, and she agreed to do so immediately. Yuki asked about her role, and Akira instructed her to use her spell curse skill on Tsukasa. Spell curse is a skill that allows the user to exorcise or dispel any kind of curse or possession on another person. Yuki began to chant and perform the exorcism. At first, the spell seemed to be working, but then Tsukasa's body resisted the exorcism, surprising everyone around them as they had no idea Tsukasa had been cursed all this time. Akira noticed the knights were struggling to deal with the powerful Minotaur and considered joining the fight. However, he hesitated, not wanting to leave Tsukasa alone while he was still recovering. Another classmate encouraged Akira to join the fight, assuring him that they would take care of Tsukasa. Filled with determination, Akira approached Saran and insisted on sharing important information about Tsukasa's condition. However, Saran suggested they put it off until after they defeated the Minotaur. Akira explained that since his dagger was broken, he was forced to use a secret skill he had learned, regardless of whether Saran agreed or not. Saran accepted the plan and urged Akira to ensure everyone's safety once they returned to the surface. After the terrible monster was defeated, Akira and his classmates found themselves under the guidance of the brave knights as they navigated their way out of the perilous dungeon. However, their journey was not over, as there was still a long way to go before they could safely return to the castle. As they advanced through the dense forest, the commander issued a stern warning, reminding everyone not to let their guard down for even a second. Akira noticed the stark contrast between the chaos in the dungeon and the eerie silence that enveloped the forest. Realizing the importance of staying vigilant in any situation, Akira reminded his companions to stay on high alert, recognizing the need to prioritize their safety. During a moment of rest, Akira decided to check his progress by looking at his status. To his astonishment, he discovered his power had skyrocketed from an initial level 1 to an impressive level 15. Not only did his overall level skyrocket, but his other attributes also saw significant improvement. Akira figured this sudden surge in power was likely a direct result of the confrontations with the formidable monsters he had bravely defeated in the dungeon. It seemed like the most logical explanation under the circumstances. Currently, Akira's stats were 3 times what they were when he first set foot in this magical world, a testament to his growth and progress. Moreover, his skills had also improved considerably. To his surprise, Akira discovered he had acquired 2 new skills, Roar and Intimidation. Recalling the commander's words about acquiring skills from defeated enemies, Akira started to connect the dots between his confrontation with the mighty Minotaur and the emergence of these new abilities. However, despite his clear progress, the whole experience felt too fast and surreal for Akira to fully grasp. Still, with his adaptable nature, Akira was confident he could easily master these new powers. As he reflected on the fate of the hero Tsukasa, Akira felt perplexed by Tsukasa's reckless actions during the Minotaur encounters. From Akira's perspective, it was unwise for Tsukasa to try and shoulder the responsibility of protecting everyone on the battlefield. Each member of the group had undergone rigorous training and should have been capable of defending themselves. Tsukasa's bravery, though thoughtless, only led to him breaking both his arms, a regrettable consequence of misplaced priorities. Akira's curiosity grew as he wondered if Tsukasa, like himself, had acquired any new skills after battling such a powerful foe. Upon returning to the safety of the castle, a sense of relief washed over everyone. To ensure no one was lost in the chaotic battle, a roll call was necessary. However, Akira longed to skip the routine head count. He wanted to break free from anything involving the king and the castle, craving freedom and independence. As he was contemplating his escape, the commander intercepted him and presented him with a surprising gift. An extraordinary sword, unlike any other weapon. It was a katana, a weapon with a glorious past, once wielded by the very first hero. The hero of that era had forged this sword with his own hands, revealing a surprising connection. The commander then told Akira that both he and the first hero hailed from the same time and place, Japan. This discovery stunned Akira, as he realized the weight and significance of the ancestral sword entrusted to him by his respected mentor. Facing the terrible Minotaur, Commander Saran realized that even with his full strength, he couldn't take on the beast alone. However, fortune smiled upon him when Akira appeared just in time, prompting the commander to ask for his help. Without hesitation, Akira wholeheartedly lent his support, recognizing that the commander's knowledge and guidance were far more valuable with him alive than in the afterlife. Siren felt the same, admitting there was still so much he wanted to learn about Akira's world, including wonders like airplanes and telephones. In a heartfelt pledge, Akira promised to satisfy Saran's curiosity and explain everything he wanted to know, on the condition that they both survive this battle. With a firm agreement reached, they prepared to face the challenge ahead together. The onlookers realized Saran's intention as he prepared to execute a skillful pincer attack, designed to ensure everyone's safety and evade the monster's devastating blow. They followed his command, retreating from the battlefield to maintain a safe distance. Saren summoned power from the heavens, calling for divine aid, and unleashed a brilliant bolt of lightning that struck the massive beast. Its pained roar echoed in agony, making it clear why those nearby had to keep a safe distance. Amidst the monster's roars, the onlookers could clearly see that Saran had dealt a significant blow to the mighty Minotaur. Saran then signaled to Akira, indicating it was his turn to act. With unwavering determination, Akira utilized the arcane power of shadow magic, earning Saran's admiration for his quick thinking and sharp strategy. Their combined skills formed a coordinated and calculated assault, catching the monster completely off guard. Saran directed Akira to execute a pincer attack, noticing that the surprise assault seemed to daze the monster. Even Akira could feel the pressure of the battle. This wasn't the first time he had faced such a grueling challenge. Months of arduous training had prepared him for fights just like this. However, Akira remained unfazed, relentlessly striking the monster with precise blows while using his shadow magic like invisible threads to bind it from every angle. With determination, Akira engaged in an exhausting tug-of-war, forcing the Minotaur to submit to his strength. Finally, the fierce battle concluded with the Minotaur's decapitation, the beast collapsing lifeless to the ground. Exhausted from overexerting his power, Akira just wanted to go home, his body completely drained. He was praised for his remarkable achievement. It was truly a job well done. The commander informed Akira that he and the first hero came from the same era, from Japan. This surprised Akira, especially when the commander revealed that the king was still unaware of the special gift, and implored Akira to keep their secret. As it turned out, the katana had actually been stolen from the castle's treasury. However, the commander justified this act as a necessary evil since Akira's original dagger had shattered in battle. Interestingly enough, that dagger had also been a treasure stolen from the castle. Lost in thought, Akira meticulously examined his new sword. The name it bore, Kogarasu Zukuri, seemed to echo in his mind. He guessed it meant something like Little Crow Maid. This double-edged sword exuded a dark aura, with its scabbard, blade, and hilt all jet black. Even the back of the blade was sharp enough to cause harm. Curiosity drove Akira to delve deeper into the sword's history. He remembered reading about it somewhere in his accumulated knowledge. To confirm, he asked the commander about its name. Surprisingly, the sword bore an inscription in a strange language that neither of them could decipher. However, the sword's true name, Yato no Kami, meaning God of Blades, was clearly engraved upon it. Although the initial inscription remained a mystery to them, when a hero held the sword, a sense of nostalgia washed over them. As Akira slowly drew the blade from its sheath, additional engravings appeared, this time in a language he could understand. It turned out the first hero who wielded this extraordinary weapon had left a message for its successor. The message urged that the sword be used to its fullest potential during the most critical moments. The whole affair left Akira pondering the enigmatic nature of the first hero, wondering what kind of person he truly was, and what extraordinary feats he had accomplished. As Akira carefully returned the magical katana to its ornate scabbard, he prepared to leave. However, the commander seized the moment to ask about what Akira had alluded to earlier concerning the hero Tsukasa. Eager to share his observations, Akira revealed that Tsukasa seemed to be trapped in a cursed predicament, which his classmates had repeatedly tried to dispel to no avail. Intrigued, Akira sought the commander's insight and understanding of this troubling situation. Meanwhile, in another compelling scene, the true nature of the enchantment Tsukasa was under was revealed. It was none other than the castle's princess who had placed him under her spell. Driven by her own resolve, the princess was determined to shape Tsukasa's actions and thoughts to her will, using her influence and power with unyielding determination. The situation grew increasingly tense, setting a suspenseful tone for the unfolding story. However, the princess's twisted schemes were swiftly disrupted by Akira, who threw a wrench in her entire meticulous plan. Unaware of his identity, she questioned Akira's audacity. Assuming he was one of Tsukasa's friends, she reprimanded him for daring to barge into her private chambers, implying he had no shame. Unfazed by the accusation, Akira firmly stated that she was no true lady, at least not in any honorable sense of the word. He accused her of using cunning tricks to keep the person she claimed to love, merely to satisfy her own selfish desires. Akira saw it as a disturbing display of twisted affection. In no uncertain terms, driven by his own sense of integrity, Akira made it clear that he did not approve of such distorted notions of love. Akira reached out and grabbed the crystal, while the princess incessantly muttered her incantations. A chill ran down his spine as he felt the icy energy radiating from the crystal, even as he forcefully snatched it off the table. With the crystal confiscated, Akira was certain that Tsukasa would finally be freed from the spell's grip. However, before leaving, he sought an explanation from the princess herself, wanting to understand why she so loyally followed the king's orders. In response, the princess expressed her unwavering loyalty to the crown, driven by a desire to serve the king's best interests. Satisfied with her answer, Akira quietly departed, effortlessly slipping out through the window. The encounter with the princess left Akira deep in thought, wondering about the depth of her understanding, or rather her lack thereof, when it came to love. He began to question her upbringing and the reasons behind her distorted views on affection and devotion. Seeking clarity, Akira confided in the commander, who revealed a heartbreaking truth. The princess had lost her mother at birth and was raised by a king constantly lost in memories of his late queen. Without a mother's guidance, the princess was forced to navigate the complexities of love on her own. This story shed light on her unusual perception of love. Despite her difficult upbringing, the princess had grown into a strong and determined woman. Akira soon realized that confiscating a single crystal was only a minor setback. The princess had a whole stash of crystals ready to replace the one he had taken. After his meeting with the princess, Akira quietly returned to report to the commander, attempting a stealthy approach. To his bewilderment, however, the commander easily detected his presence, leaving Akira to wonder how he had so effortlessly foiled his attempt at stealth. The commander, with a knowing smile, dismissed Akira's failure as a testament to how well he knew him. The long time they had spent together had forged a deep bond, rendering Akira's efforts futile. Shifting his attention to the true purpose of Akira's presence, Akira presented the confiscated crystal to the commander, revealing that it was the commander who had provided him with the intuition that led to its confiscation. The crystal was clear proof, reinforcing their suspicions. Intrigued, the commander took the crystal, his mind filled with thoughts and contemplation. This new discovery worried Akira, and he hastily asked if the spell was truly broken. The commander reassured him, confirming that the spell had been destroyed. However, there was something unresolved in the commander's response, leaving Akira curious and eager for a clearer explanation. Unfortunately, the commander remained tight-lipped, promising to examine the crystal more closely. He dismissed Akira for the night, advising him to rest after the dramatic series of events that had unfolded in such a short time. However, Akira was skeptical about the safety of sleeping in his room within the castle walls, especially since he had angered the princess and made an enemy of her. He weighed his options, contemplating finding another safe haven for the night. Before bidding Commander Saran farewell, Akira brought up a topic he had mentioned earlier, one that still piqued his curiosity. The commander reassured him that the information Akira requested would be ready by that evening, and they would continue their conversation after a well-deserved night's rest. With this promise, Akira departed, his mind filled with unanswered questions and anticipation. As the sun slowly rose over the horizon, casting a brilliant golden glow across the landscape, Akira felt a pang of regret for not waking up sooner. The previous day's battle and the events that followed had left him exhausted, making it impossible to wake up as early as he had hoped. However, it was hardly surprising after the hardships he'd endured. As he began his morning routine, Akira noticed Tsukasa, the revered hero, actively searching for him. Inwardly, Akira pondered Tsukasa's condition, wondering if he had truly been freed from the curse's clutches. It was a relief to see that Tsukasa seemed to be in good spirits. Akira decided to reveal himself and strike up a conversation, inquiring about Tsukasa's condition, concerned for his well-being. In response, Tsukasa quickly assured him that he was fine, but it was clear his health was not the most pressing concern at the moment. The air around Tsukasa radiated a sense of urgency, suggesting that something serious had happened involving Commander Saran. Unfortunately, Tsukasa couldn't disclose the details right away, leaving Akira in a state of suspense, wondering about the nature of this urgent situation. With no other choice but to follow the anxious Tsukasa, Akira hurried after him, driven by curiosity to learn the cause of the commotion. The two quickly made their way back to the castle, where a tragic sight met Akira's eyes. Commander Saran lay motionless on the floor, a fatal wound piercing his chest. The sight filled Akira with sorrow and disbelief, a wave of painful emotions washing over him. A crowd had gathered around the commander's body, confirming that he was dead. Akira couldn't comprehend why this had happened. He had lost his mentor, his friend. He desperately wanted answers, but someone in the crowd, seemingly unaffected by Akira's grief, pointed out that it was Akira's own dagger embedded in the commander's chest. Several others chimed in, claiming they had seen Akira use that very dagger in battle. This could only mean one thing: Akira was the murderer. The crowd grew agitated, convinced that Akira had murdered Commander Saran. Akira tried to calm them and explain, but they hurled insults at him, and the situation quickly spiraled out of control. Akira was confused. He was sure someone had to remember that his dagger had broken during the fight with the Minotaur. Why did no one seem to recall that? Why wasn't anyone speaking up to remind those who had forgotten? Suddenly, Akira realized something as he saw the princess and the king standing among the crowd. His classmates were probably under a spell, which was why they had so easily turned against him. If this was truly the king and princess's scheme, then clearing his name would be an incredibly difficult task. Akira walked over to the commander's body and pulled the blood-soaked dagger from his chest. He declared to the king that he would be leaving because he had now become a hindrance. The king had no intention of letting Akira leave so easily. After all, everyone believed he had killed the commander, their last line of defense. Letting such a murderer go without severe punishment would be insane. Once out of earshot, the princess whispered to Akira that he knew too much, just like the late commander. Therefore, what was coming was the price for their curiosity. The king ordered Akira's arrest, but he remained surprisingly calm, clearly one step ahead of the king's schemes. As the guards closed in, Akira activated his stealth skill and vanished. The king ordered the guards to search everywhere, checking every nook and cranny. Meanwhile, the vice commander managed to contact Akira, informing him that the commander had left a letter for him, along with something Akira had previously requested. The vice commander also wanted to know if the assassination unit, the Night Crows, was operating under the king's orders, but didn't wait for an answer. He warned Akira to be careful, as he was now a target, and advised him to leave the castle immediately for his own safety, giving him a solemn nod. Akira bid the vice commander farewell, his mind set on his escape from the castle. The request he had once made to Commander Saran now became an integral part of his meticulous plan, a testament to his foresight. From the beginning, Akira had intended to leave the castle walls, but the unfolding events, especially the king's reckless actions, only accelerated his departure. However, this untimely escape came at a steep price: the loss of someone he deeply respected. Commander Saran, who had met a tragic end. Determined and resolute, Akira vowed to avenge the commander's death, pledging to bring justice to those responsible. Even so, Akira understood that the journey ahead would be long and challenging. Despite his unwavering spirit, he was aware of his current limitations. Akira understood that he did not yet possess the strength he craved. He had to accept that the path to revenge would likely be a long one, requiring him to grow and gain more power before he could face his enemies with the might he desired. Meanwhile, the king was in a cheerful mood. He chatted with the princess, speaking of how his wish had been fulfilled. Commander Saran's death was bad news for everyone else, but to the king, Saran was just a troublesome pest who needed to be eliminated. The fact that someone as great as Saran could be killed so easily pleased the king. The princess even suggested they should reward the Night Crow's assassination unit for their efforts. Furthermore, the curse on everyone, except for the hero, was now complete. Model. Now, there was only one reason left to wage war against the Eastern Kingdom. Everything would have been a cause for celebration, if not for the existence of one stubborn man. Akira. As much as the king wanted to ignore his presence, he couldn't stop thinking about Akira, who lingered constantly in his mind. People like him often met unexpected and random ends. But just to be sure, the king ordered the Night Crows to keep an eye on Akira. 10 days had passed since Akira entered the king's dungeon. Underground, there was no certain way to tell the time, but Akira relied on his stomach to keep track, counting the number of meals he had consumed. At some point, Akira realized he had to conserve his rations, so he started grilling the meat from the monsters he encountered, which surprisingly tasted quite good. For now, he focused on the beast-like monsters, leaving the humanoid ones alone. But Akira knew that at some point, he might have to stop being picky. The moments when Akira rested to eat were when he was most vulnerable. So to compensate, he always kept his stealth and threat detection skills activated. Although using these skills drained his stamina and mana, he couldn't risk letting his guard down. But that was all that was on Akira's mind right now. Now he needed to eat and prepare for the next room, the dungeon's boss room. Every 10 floors, there was always a giant boss. Before Akira now was the boss room of the 60th floor, meaning he had already faced boss monsters from the 10th to the 50th floors. The 10th floor had a goblin general, which Akira handled with ease. The 20th floor had an orc, while the 30th was an extremely tough red wolf. To pass the 40th floor, Akira had to fight the Goblin King. On the 50th floor, his greatest challenge yet, Akira faced Fenrir. Facing one Fenrir wasn't too great a challenge, But what made it difficult was that Fenrir came with 4 level 30 red wolves. To defeat them, Akira had to use his stealth skill and attack each one from behind. Akira wondered what would have become of him without his skills. This made him determined to improve his fighting technique, not just rely on his skills anymore. Ever since defeating the 50th floor boss, Akira had stuck to that resolve. He had made it to the 60th floor using only his curved sword and combat skills, without relying on magic. However, Akira realized that the caliber of his opponents was getting stronger. He knew he might be forced to use his skills again sooner than he'd like. Akira was now in the boss room. Every boss room he had been in so far had doors that automatically locked when someone entered, and these doors wouldn't open until the battle was over. In other words, once Akira stepped inside, there were only 2 outcomes. He dies, or the boss dies. These weren't conditions anyone would want to accept, but Akira was ready for the fight. As soon as Akira entered the room, the boss appeared. This was a true bloodthirsty beast. The giant monster had the head and upper body of a lion, the horns and lower body of a goat, and a venomous snake for a tail. Akira, with his limited knowledge of Greek mythology, quickly recognized the monster as a chimera. He prepared for battle, telling himself that this time it was just a one-on-one fight. It couldn't be that hard, but he was wrong. The chimera was as agile as it was strong, constantly charging at Akira with terrifying speed, and he barely managed to dodge each time. What made the fight even harder was that the chimera had no blind spots, thanks to its venomous snake tail, which was ready to strike from any direction. Akira found it difficult to sneak in and attack from behind. This wasn't a normal one-on-one fight, it was a true nightmare. Whether he was thinking about how to survive or was overwhelmed by the chimera's immense presence. Akira lost focus for a moment. This gave the chimera an opening to charge at him and slam him hard against the wall. Akira cried out in pain, feeling as if all his ribs had been broken by that attack. Literally and figuratively, backed into a corner, Akira didn't need anyone to tell him it was time to stop relying solely on his curved sword. There was no way he could kill the chimera with just that weapon. To survive, Akira decided to put everything he had into this fight. In a last-ditch effort, Akira used his dark magic skill on the monster, with his hands outstretched. His consciousness began to fade, and Akira felt like he was dreaming because Commander Saran was standing right in front of him, talking to him. Perhaps this was just a memory. Yes, he had heard the commander say this before. Commander Saran told Akira that his dark magic, however powerful, had fatal flaws. It seemed to have a mind of its own, with an enormous mana cost and the risk of going out of control. That was why the commander always warned Akira to be careful when using it. Akira was always on high alert when using his dark magic. When Akira came to, all he could sense was the sweet, metallic scent of blood enveloping him. Before him, the chimera lay defeated, but his body still wouldn't move. Just as he thought, fighting a boss-level monster without using his skills was too difficult, Akira passed out again. While his dark magic automatically activated due to the severity of his injuries, the system immediately switched to recovery mode. But Akira didn't have enough mana for a full restoration. So, the remaining mana was drawn from his dark magic. It wasn't a bad skill, especially in critical situations like this. In the beginning, the creator god made the heavens and then created the earth. Using his own body as a model, he created mortals, including humans, elves, demons, and beastmen. The creator god gave them lands to live on, work to do, and status to protect themselves. He hoped that caring for these mortals would help soothe his heart, which had been hardened by the conflict among the gods. However, as fate would have it, mortals were not so different from the gods. They craved more things like land, women, or men, and from that, wars erupted everywhere. This enraged the god Aether at the behavior of mortals, and he created monsters, then divided the world into 4 parts. The demons, who could control monsters, were despised by the other 3 races, and were driven to the volcanic continent, called Volcano. The elves, in contrast, chose to live on the continent where sacred trees grew to touch the sky, their land called the forest. The two remaining races, humans and beastmen, continued to fight until the very end. The humans were victorious and chose the richest of the 4 continents, called Kentinen. The beastmen received their own continent, called Brute. That is how the 4 races came to have their own continents to live on. However, even after the war ended, the demons did not stop their attacks against the other 3 races. To this day, the demons remain the common enemy of the other 3 races. Akira finally opened his eyes for the first time since defeating the Chimera. He must have been dreaming. And again, it was about Commander Saran. He had been dreaming of Saran frequently lately. And this time, it was about the first day he met the commander. As he tried to recall the dream, Akira realized something even more astonishing. For someone who couldn't move before passing out, his body was now in perfect condition, and all his wounds were gone. Akira didn't understand what had happened, but what he was sure of was how he felt. And right now, he felt incredibly hungry. His first instinct was to find something to eat in the forest, but as he looked around, he saw the Chimera's corpse still lying on the floor. Charity begins at home, or in this case, right on the dungeon floor. The Chimera's meat showed no signs of spoilage, and there were no insects or maggots around its body. Akira decided to roast the Chimera meat using one of Kieran Morgan's magic stones. People without magic skills could still use simple spells like lighting a fire or creating a little water. Akira used the magic stone to roast the Chimera and began to eat. He had no regrets at all. The meat was so delicious he couldn't stop until he was stuffed. Now that he was full, Akira thought back on why his wounds had been healed. Could someone have happened to pass by, taken pity on him, and healed him? But then he remembered that he was locked in the boss room, which ruled out the possibility of anyone helping. Akira checked his status to confirm that he didn't have any regeneration skills, but then he discovered he had a new skill, and it had a strange name: Good Luck. This wasn't a completely unfamiliar skill to Akira. In fact, he had hoped to get the skill sooner. If he'd had it before, he might have discovered the plot to assassinate Commander Saran and could have prevented it. Akira's threat detection skill notified him that a danger was approaching. He looked around but didn't see anything at first. However, his skills had never been wrong, so he trusted them and decided to take a closer look. Thanks to that careful look, Akira managed to dodge a slime falling from above. It wasn't just his threat detection skill that was active. Akira's present sense skill also made him clearly feel that someone was nearby. But just like with the slime, he didn't see anyone at first. Deciding to start with what he knew, he decided to defeat the slime before worrying about anything else. The slime made a lot of noise and moved around a lot, but Akira had faced worse enemies and wasn't fazed by this monster. The slime tried to attack him by launching a part of its goo at him, but it was too slow to hit him. Akira easily dodged and went straight for the monster, slashing it with a single, swift strike of his blade. Good enough for a warm-up, he thought to himself. Akira prepared to move on, but as soon as the slime was destroyed, he noticed a clear figure inside. Wait, that's a person? Only Akira could have discovered this in the deepest part of the dungeon. It was a girl with long, pointed ears and a very beautiful face. Akira remembered enough from Commander Saran's stories to recognize that this was an elf. From what he knew, elves loved nature and sacred trees, and they despised humans for frequently cutting down forests. Elves also rarely left the forest continent, so Akira wondered why an elf would wander so far from her homeland. These questions couldn't answer themselves, and he couldn't just leave her there. So, Akira decided to wait patiently until the elf girl woke up. Akira sat down to wait for the elf to wake up, not knowing how long it would take. Waiting around without doing anything was unusual for Akira. His life was usually filled with events, learning, and training, so waiting might offer him a fresh perspective. Still, Akira told himself to be patient. But it wasn't long before he started to get bored and decided to find something to do while he waited. Akira remembered he had a skill from the beginning called Eye of the World. He had never tried using the skill and didn't know what it could do. This might be a good time to test it. Eye of the World was a skill that allowed the user to see the entire truth of the world. The user could also adjust the range of vision. Akira decided to try using the skill, but as soon as he activated it, his body couldn't handle it. His head throbbed as if it were about to split in two. Akira saw many things, but he couldn't maintain it for long, so he was forced to cancel the skill before it harmed his body. Akira realized that some of his skills couldn't be used continuously, especially Eye of the World. After reading carefully about the skill, he discovered that he could adjust its range of vision. This made him wonder if he could control it better on his next try. But before he could try the skill again, Akira noticed something else. The elf he had just saved was waking up. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, in the city, Asahina Kyosuke, a samurai, entered a strange room and began to destroy the crystals inside. Completely unaware of his actions, it seemed he was being influenced by the king and princess. Back in the dungeon, the beautiful elf had regained consciousness. Akira rushed to her side. The first thing he did was check if she was physically okay. The elf confirmed that she was perfectly fine. Next, Akira offered her some food, figuring that after so long inside the slime, she must be very hungry. Just as he expected, the elf was very hungry and quickly took the food from his hand. However, what Akira didn't expect was that after eating, the elf ran off and hid behind a nearby pillar. Akira wondered if she was afraid of him, feeling like he was trying to earn the trust of a wild animal. He brought another piece of meat to lure her closer, and since she was still very hungry, the elf gave in and came out to get the food. With this exchange, Akira felt that he had built a certain level of trust. Now that she seemed to trust him more, Akira decided to ask her why she was in the slime. The beautiful elf replied that she didn't know how she ended up in there, but even if she did, it wasn't something she wanted to talk about. Akira found that reasonable and had no problem with her not wanting to share more. As he looked at her again, Akira noticed something strange but surprising. Perhaps because he had activated the Eye of the World skill right as she woke up, he could now see her status screen very clearly. From her status screen, Akira learned that the beautiful elf's name was Amelia Rosaquartz of the High Elf race. From what he had heard, High Elves were like the royalty of the elf race. But what caught his attention even more were her impressive stats, especially her magic power, which was described as immeasurable on the status screen. What did that even mean? And as if Akira hadn't had enough surprises for one day, he realized that Amelia also possessed the skill Eye of the World. This special skill was supposed to be extremely rare. Yet by some coincidence, he met another person who had it in the depths of the dungeon. Because she also had the skill, Amelia could see Akira's status screen, including his name and basic information. She didn't hide this fact as she called him by name and asked why he was in the dungeon. Akira replied that he was here to raise his level. After that, an awkward silence stretched between them. Looking closer at Amelia, Akira noticed that she had white hair and red eyes, very different from most other elves who usually had blonde hair and blue eyes. Akira tried to break the awkwardness between them by asking Amelia about her future plans, whether she intended to return to the Elven continent. However, Amelia surprisingly gave a bold reply, stating that she planned to stay with Akira. The young man hadn't expected this answer at all and told her about his plan to return home after clearing the dungeon. Amelia turned her face away and told Akira that he no longer had a place in the human castle. This response shocked Akira, and he immediately asked what she meant by that. Amelia pointed out that they shared the same eyes, and therefore, Akira should understand why he no longer had a place there. Akira felt that she was talking about the Eye of the World skill, but perhaps his level was still too low to truly understand her meaning. Amelia replied that he didn't understand because he had rejected those eyes. Before Akira could ask more to understand better, she said she was tired and needed to rest. Akira had no choice but to let Amelia rest, but he couldn't stop thinking about what she had said. Before going to sleep, Akira expanded the range of his threat detection skill to include the area around Amelia, ensuring she was also safe. What a thoughtful gentleman. Meanwhile, Amelia was pondering the words she had spoken to Akira. She knew that those words didn't just apply to Akira, but to herself as well. She also had nowhere to return to. While lost in her sad thoughts, Amelia felt a warm breeze touch her skin on the cold floor. Akira had used his daily life magic to create a warm breeze for her. She realized that whether he was Vlad or Akira, he might be a kind person after all. He had taken better care of her than anyone in the elven village. Even her own sister had rejected her. Amelia recalled the moment she looked into Akira's eyes and said he was from another world. She wondered what kind of world Akira came from and what the people there were like. Meanwhile, at the human castle, Tsukasa was trying to rally the humans and propose a plan to defeat the Demon King, hoping to persuade them to join him in the battle. However, most of the people mocked Tsukasa, while others were surprised that he would volunteer to leave in this chaotic situation. It hadn't been long since Commander Saran was killed, an act everyone believed was caused by Akira. Tsukasa remained calm, as he knew most of the insults came from the effects of the curse. The purpose of the curse was to prevent people from cooperating with each other. Even so, the taunts were starting to get on Tsukasa's nerves. The king and princess were clearly doing everything they could to defeat Tsukasa, but he declared that he had no intention of giving up. Tsukasa was determined to leave the castle, even if he had to go alone. Just as he was about to leave in frustration, someone from the crowd suddenly volunteered to join him. It was the samurai, Asahina Kyosuke. It seemed all it took was for one person to step up, because right after, 4 others, including Ueno, quickly expressed their desire to fight the Demon King with Tsukasa. Tsukasa announced that their departure was certain, regardless of whether the king agreed or not. He ordered everyone to quickly disperse, pack their things, and leave the castle before they could be stopped. Meanwhile, a guard was secretly watching Tsukasa's group from a back wall. He didn't intervene, simply returning quietly to report to his master. The new group of warriors, led by Tsukasa, succeeded in escaping the castle. Strangely, there was no resistance at the gate, which they found a bit odd, but they figured they were probably just lucky. Tsukasa needed to confirm something, so he asked why they decided to come with him. Ueno pointed out that perhaps all 6 warriors were now free from the curse's influence. They didn't know exactly how the curse was broken, but perhaps Asahina knew something. Asahina recounted the story of how he found himself in a room and destroyed 6 crystals with his katana. The 6 crystals might have symbolized the 6 current warriors, who had been freed from the curse. However, this was just a theory. There were still many unanswered questions, such as what had compelled Asahina's body to destroy those 6 crystals. They examined the katana to see if it was a cursed item, but there were no signs of anything wrong with the weapon. It was a pure white katana named Hakuryu. Since they were still near the city, the brave warriors decided to press on and deal with the questions later. Meanwhile, the guard who had been watching Tsukasa's group had now returned and was reporting to his master. Fortunately, the master the guard reported to was the vice commander, not the king. From the report, it seemed the king still knew nothing of Tsukasa's movements. The vice commander was relieved, as this meant he had bought more time for Tsukasa. He hoped that the group of heroes would make good use of that precious time. Meanwhile, Tsukasa was approached by one of the 6 warriors, who wanted to better understand the overall strategy for defeating the Demon King. In response, Tsukasa proposed a meticulous and calculated approach, stressing the importance of tackling each challenge systematically and carefully. He emphasized that their immediate goal was to escape the dangerous forest and move far away from the territory controlled by the cruel king. Tsukasa advised everyone to be extremely cautious, avoiding any reckless actions that could endanger their safety or hinder their progress. Meanwhile, Asahina Kyosuke delved deep into his memories, recalling the memories he shared with Akira and Tsukasa over the years. The 3 of them had been classmates since kindergarten. But the relationship between Tsukasa and Akira had always been tense. Akira, known for his mysterious nature, had a strange ability to disappear before anyone could even see him. This was often mistaken for aloofness or even hostility. Kyosuke had noticed that Tsukasa disliked people who didn't acknowledge his presence, which was exactly what Akira often did. Kyosuke still clearly remembered a surprising encounter with Akira while he was working at a construction site. Akira's discomfort was obvious, likely stemming from the surprise of Kyosuke recognizing him. The situation was a bit ironic, as Kyosuke himself hadn't expected Akira to remember him. However, the chance encounter led to a heartfelt conversation. Kyosuke reassured Akira that having part-time jobs didn't violate any school rules, in case Akira was worried about potential consequences. As it turned out, Akira's worry wasn't about being reported, but about hiding his secret job from his friends. Their friendship quickly blossomed when they discovered a common bond. They both had younger sisters, and by coincidence, their sisters were best friends with each other. Akira and Kyosuke's bond extended beyond the school grounds, and they began spending more time together outside of class. However, their peaceful companionship was abruptly cut short when they were drawn into a strange world. Unjust accusations were hurled at Akira, leaving Kyosuke's heart heavy with sorrow and regret. He deeply regretted not being able to help when the unfair crowd labeled Akira a monster. Ever since setting foot in this unfamiliar world, Kyosuke hadn't had a single chance to talk to Akira. Regret gnawed at him, knowing he should have tried harder to establish a line of communication with his old friend before these unfortunate events unfolded. To make matters worse, Kyosuke was further burdened by the impression he might have left on Akira, having become part of the crowd that believed him to be a guilty murderer. He wondered if his actions had affected their friendship, and if Akira resented him for not standing by his side when it mattered. These thoughts intensified Kyosuke's anguish, making him yearn for a chance to redeem himself. Although their friendship began with a simple and pure connection through their younger sisters, their current circumstances had thrust them both into a much more complicated situation. Kyosuke longed for an opportunity to correct his past misjudgment and bridge the emotional gap that had grown between him and Akira since their arrival in this mysterious world. As Kyosuke was lost in his recollections, Tsukasa suddenly interjected with a curious tone, eagerly asking about Kyosuke's motivation for joining the hero's dangerous journey. With a determined glint in his eye, Kyosuke revealed that his main goal was to reunite with Akira. This declaration elicited a surprising reaction from Tsukasa, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. However, Kyosuke was unfazed by the reaction. He went on to remark that Akira and Tsukasa shared many notable similarities. This assertion seemed to bother Tsukasa even more, and the urgency in his desire to end the conversation quickly became apparent. Although he held no ill will towards Akira, Tsukasa couldn't deny the resemblance between them. Despite Tsukasa's subtle signals to stop, Kyosuke remained oblivious. He persisted, emphasizing the burdens that both Akira and Tsukasa carried. Though the nature of these burdens was very different. One held it within, while the other faced it alone. Both tried to endure the pressure from others. Returning to the scene within the intricate labyrinth, Emilia and Akira were locked in a fierce battle with a massive and terrifying foe. Emilia's swift and skillful movements proved crucial, allowing her to quickly defeat the fearsome monster. She activated her gravity skill, pulling the flying beast down to the ground, where it met its end. A wave of relief washed over Akira as he witnessed firsthand that Emilia was not the burden he had initially thought her to be. After the gruesome battle, the two took a break, recovering their strength and sharing a much-needed meal. In this moment, they set aside the horrors that surrounded them. Before starting their meal, Akira took a moment to pray, a custom from his world. Emilia, curious about this ritual, decided to mimic Akira's gesture, clasping her hands in prayer and asking if she was doing it right. Emilia's curiosity piqued her interest in Akira's customs, and she began to seek more information about his personal life. Emilia went on to ask Akira about his family and his closest friends. Akira, in a rare moment of vulnerability, opened up to Emilia and shared details about his past. He grew up in a single-parent household, with his mother and younger sister as the pillars of his life. His father had abandoned them when Akira was about 10 years old, leaving behind the burden of caring for a frail mother and 2 children. His father had no intention of caring for an ailing wife and 2 children, and so he left. To make ends meet, Akira had to work multiple part-time jobs while keeping up with his studies. Recently, his sister had volunteered to help out, lightening the load on Akira's shoulders and giving him more time at home. Akira's story was touching, filled with emotion and resilience. In response, Emilia shared that she also had a younger sister. It seemed like everyone in the story had a younger sister. Emilia's sister excelled in every area, from beauty to diverse skills. Emilia, however, carried a sense of insecurity when comparing herself to her sister, whom she saw as nearly perfect. Akira expressed his skepticism about this, suggesting that spending time with people who seem flawless might not be as interesting as one might think. He compared it to his relationship with Tsukasa, highlighting the appeal of people with weaknesses and flaws, those who don't hide behind a facade of perfection. During their conversation, Akira suddenly expressed a craving for rice, which surprised Emilia. She informed him that rice also existed in their current world, much to Akira's surprise and excitement. She also revealed that the first hero had established a nation called Yamato, which shared many similarities with Akira's original world. The possibility of visiting Yamato ignited a spark of hope in Akira. However, he was well aware that he had to focus on his primary goal at hand, increasing his level and avenging the fallen Commander Saran. Emilia, ever a steadfast source of encouragement, assured Akira that he already possessed great strength, and that in her eyes, he was already among the strongest people she had ever met. Akira acknowledged the reality of his own power, recognizing that he possessed formidable abilities even without relying solely on his eye-of-the-world skill. Still, he was keenly aware that his current strength was not enough to complete his mission and bring justice for Commander Saran. To achieve his goal and overcome the challenges ahead, Akira had to relentlessly strive to reach level 100, pushing his limits to become stronger and unlock his true potential. Driven by his pursuit of mastery in swordsmanship, Akira had once embarked on a daring quest to conquer a dangerous floor. However, his efforts proved more difficult than expected, leaving him facing frustration and a sense of stagnation. After he expressed his difficulties, his supportive companion, Emilia, decided to help him. She used her formidable magical abilities to skillfully seal Akira's skills for a short time, preventing him from accessing the powers he usually relied on. In a swift and masterful display of magic, Emilia astonished Akira with her speed and proficiency. To both their surprise, Emilia, with her keen senses, detected an approaching threat from above. A massive monster with menacing wings soared through the sky, causing Akira's heart to race as he grasped the gravity of the situation. Realizing that his threat detection and sensory skills had been sealed, Akira was plunged into a state of uncertainty and vulnerability. The familiar means that helped him anticipate danger were now inaccessible, leaving him feeling insecure. Emilia, in a supportive voice, encouraged Akira to do his best, assuring him that she was ready to intervene if necessary. However, before Akira could formulate a detailed plan, the bat-like monster launched a relentless assault, exploiting Akira's weakened state and catching him off guard. Without his supporting skills, Akira struggled to defend himself and found it difficult to establish a solid defense, putting him at a disadvantage against the monster's continuous attacks. Although Akira recognized the creature from a previous encounter, he understood that this battle would be a much greater challenge without his usual skills to aid him. The monster possessed a unique trait that could deceive and confuse its opponent's senses, making it incredibly difficult to track and predict its movements. Akira faced the immense challenge before him, his mind consumed by the difficulty of the situation. However, Amelia remained his steadfast source of encouragement, urging him to persevere and stressing the futility of relying solely on his sealed skills and senses. Inspired by Amelia's wise words, Akira shifted his focus to an unaffected source of power, the mana flowing within his body. Realizing that sensing and controlling the flow of mana could enhance both his physical and mental strength, Akira saw a glimmer of hope in this arduous confrontation. With newfound determination, he began to explore the untapped potential of his mana control skills. Instead of trying to hide or blend into the shadows as usual, Akira chose a novel approach. He delved into the intricate art of creating replicas, using sophisticated streams of mana to craft an unbelievably lifelike copy of himself. When the bat monster charged toward the replicated image, it was fooled by the illusion's authenticity. Akira seized the golden opportunity and executed an incredibly swift and precise sword strike as fast as lightning, eliminating the threat in an instant. Brilliant move, Akira! Amelia stood there, stunned by the creativity and ingenuity of Akira's extraordinary strategy. She couldn't take her eyes off his performance and was curious about how Akira had achieved such an impressive victory. Akira humbly attributed his success to his unique way of understanding and applying Amelia's guidance. He had combined his special mana control skills with his refined swordsmanship to overcome the challenge. Although the monster was dead, the mana construct that created Akira's replica remained standing, like an independent entity. This achievement was not just impressive, but almost impossible. Typically, only mages with extraordinary magical abilities could create independent mana constructs. However, this skill was not entirely unprecedented. In history, it had been performed by the first hero, a legendary figure from the past. Akira and Amelia, with unwavering determination, continued deeper into the perilous dungeon. Undeterred by the challenges ahead, they persevered and finally stood before the imposing 80th floor.